Okay, so let's look at 5 things that will help us walk through the valley when we feel like we're stuck and we're supposed to be moving through and really understanding what God's doing in our life. How do we walk through? Number 1, you need to position yourself in such a place that you can hear from God. So find a place in your room. If you're in your car, that's a great place if you have a long drive to work. Listen to a faith-based message and maybe write a few things that jumped out or a few pieces of scripture that really meant something to you in regards to the theme of that faith-based message. If you're in a Bible study, take time in the morning to position yourself to do that Bible study. Just take time to position yourself to listen to a form of scripture or a faith-based message. It's so important to position yourself to begin to hear from God. When you hear from God, you will know how to walk forward in your valley. Number 2 is to pour over and personalize that passage of scripture. It is important to understand that it is more quality than it is quantity. It's not how much you can get done and how fast you can read, but it's the quality that you spent pouring over that piece of scripture. So take time and really pour over it. When I say pour over it, that means kind of hang out in your valley for a minute, listen to a piece of scripture, and listen to how God may want you to walk forward today. Take one step today. Scan that piece of scripture. Really look at it. Put yourself in the story. Circle some of the words. Paraphrase the scripture. Now, what does the reading say to you? Paraphrase it back to you and break it down. If you're circling words, I'm encouraging you to look them up and Google them. Look in a thesaurus and get all the meanings to that word. Sometimes I even use different translations when I'm poring over a piece of scripture. I like to go to the Message translation and the New Living Translation just to broaden my horizon. And often I'll jot down the different words I hear to help myself really pour over that passage. Number 3, what are the spiritual principles that this passage is trying to teach you? 3 main principles that I can really pull out of scripture. And the first one is there a command that God is trying to tell me? Is there a command I need to obey today? Is there an attribute about God that I need to learn? Is there a character about him that I need to understand? Is this passage teaching me how great he is and how he is in control of all things and that I need to trust him? What is jumping out in that piece of scripture that is going to become a spiritual principle for me? That spiritual principle is going to help you walk through that valley. It's going to help you really understand that even though you don't understand the mess, God is creating the message. But when we understand his command, his attribute, his promise, or his character, we just got to believe in that. We've got to take that spiritual principle and we got to take one step forward. Number 4, how is the scripture personally directed to me? Now, this is when the rubber meets the road. We really need to say, what is personally happening here? Why am I having trust issues? What is really holding me back? Where's the fear coming? If the passage says, thou shalt not fear, for I am with you, what does your fear look like? This is when we get real personal and we begin to write back. I usually take some journal notes of what I'm feeling and what I'm struggling with. I may not personally line up with that scripture right at the moment. And so I write down where my struggles are in that piece of scripture. If I'm having a hard time trusting God, if I'm having a hard time understanding his plans, I will write a few things down and I will personalize it. Again, this is when the rubber meets the road. This is when I take everything that I might have paraphrased and I kind of write down my struggles. Or if I've seen God at work and it's just a day I'm doing a typical daily Bible reading, I will explain maybe some gratitude and victories that I have really learned as I have walked through other things in life. So really take that and personalize that piece of scripture. Number 5 is the most important. That's plan to obey. You have to plan to obey and move forward. What is your action plan? How are you going to move forward today? What is your application going to be? Because we cannot stay stuck in the valley. valley. We have to have a plan. How are we going to move forward today? How are we going to take one step today? One step is going to bring you through the valley. One step is going to have you going back upside that mountaintop and eventually experiencing your mountaintop experience, your message, your destiny. So how are you moving through that health battle? How are you moving through today and taking one step and understanding the healing from your past, or understanding forgiveness, or really getting through the grieving season of your life? God has a plan. God has a plan for every single valley, and He wants us to walk through it. The way we walk through it is going to determine how we come out on the other side. So I hope that these 5 steps were a blessing to you. If they are, please give this video a thumbs up, share it, give me a comment. If one of these have really jumped out, share what you do in your valley. How does God speak to you? How do you keep moving forward? I'd love to start a community here. I'm very excited and passionate about inspiring others in their success while building the faith. Thanks again for stopping by, and have a blessed day.